seconds, that is. And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live video. I'm so excited to talk to Chris Kirkpatrick from Life 180. And we have this crazy success story that we have been exploring over the last, I think, almost a year now.
Yeah, it's
And
better.
so many people have asked us, how did he do it? How did he close a $3.4 million deal with basically $1,000? And what that $1,000 entails is basically a stack of Kindles, those Amazon, book readers, those Kindles. So, without further ado, I'd love to, Chris, just hear it from you. What was the story like? Teach us on your strategy. You've got so many amazing sales strategies, marketing strategies, just better ways to connect with people, and would love to learn more about this particular one.
Yeah, well, with this specific case, I guess, it really just came down to all sales. I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of the Dream 100 concept, which Chet Holmes wrote about in his book, The Ultimate Sales Machine?
Well, I'm gonna guess that is the absolute most qualified, top hottest, 100 prospects in your CRM. These are the most sales qualified leads, the ones with the deal with the highest percentage of close. That's just my guess.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just talking about like, all right, what are the different strategies that you could do to get in front of them? Because like you're whether you call it Dream 100, Dream 50, Dream 10, whatever it is, it's there's got to be a strategy to get in front of them, and that group of people should make you nervous, right? Like it's got to be valuable, and it's like you get one shot, like one chance to kind of do it the right way. And typically speaking, if you're doing it the right way and you're setting the bar high enough, it's a pretty hard barrier, to break through. There's a good barrier to entry, right? To get there. And if you do things like everybody else does, you're probably going to get the same results, which is not get the sale and not build the relationship and all these different things. And so, okay, so we talk about all the things that I did with the Kindle and whatnot, and how we use Dubb to do it. Okay, like we'll get there. But I think what's important to talk about on the front end of this is that it can't be just transactional. It has to be you really taking the time and building the framework. Like, so this one example that we talk about, it's easy to like be like, yeah, I sent him this Kindle and I uploaded a video and I did all these things and it started the relationship. But really, the message on the Kindle was completely personalized. I basically did a lot of research. Actually, I had a team of my VAs initially do a lot of the research and kind of point me in the right directions. And then I went in and took it to the next level. But like I found out about this individual. I found out what he was excited about. I learned about his kids. I learned about the fact that he was a diehard Cubs fan. I learned about like all these things that I knew were exciting. And so then when you send him a box, what we call a shock and awe box, right? And when we send him this box, first of all, if I were to send him a letter or an email or do what most people do, it's going to get ignored or lost or misplaced, and it's never his assistant's going to open it, right? And is going to look at my letter and he's just never going to see it, right? And so anybody, that you're probably going after has some sort of like gatekeeper that you have to get through. And so like letters and emails and stuff, they have assistants that are kind of handling all that. But if you send them a box, like an Amazon package, and you make it look like an Amazon package and it's personal, chances are that just kind of like gets put in a pile next to his desk. And when he shows up, he's like, oh, I don't remember ordering anything. He opens it up. He's like, what the heck is this? And on the top of it was a letter with 2 Cubs tickets in it, right? Because I know he's a Cubs fan. I live in Arizona. The Cubs come here to play the Arizona Cardinals. So the next time he came, I had a couple tickets to go see the Cubs, and they were right on the top. And it's like, with a letter, like my gift to you. And then on the letter, it says, hey, there's more explained on the video on the Kindle. And then he goes, Kindle, what? He lifts it up. There's Kindle. And he opens the video. And it's me talking to him like a human being, just being like, hey, you don't know me. I've done some research on you and your company and kind of what you stand for. I love your company. And in this research, I found out you're a Cubs fan. I really thought you'd enjoy going to see a game. I don't expect anything in return for that. Consider that my gift to you, but we like to do things big. We like to stand out. I'm a big believer. If you want different results, you have to act differently. I'm pretty much trying to remember exactly what I said here. But it's like, and so this is just our way of doing that. And so if you had the time, I would love to meet you. I'd love to meet in person to learn more about you and your business, and how we can help fill a couple of your needs. And I feel like if you are somebody who is also looking for different results and wants to partner with a company that really understands you, your company, your values, and you want to partner with people that share your values, it might make sense to connect. And that's it.
Amazing.
Like, that was it. I mean, it was not complicated.
Yeah. Right.
Did it take a time on the front end? Yeah, I probably spent $150 on a VA to do a bunch of research. I took my time. I spent probably $300 on Cubs tickets, $60 on a Kindle. Like, so for this one guy, there's like, if you do this the right way, let's say I did this with 10 people like this, it would probably cost me $5,000, right?
Right.
But like, I don't know anybody out there that's not willing to spend $5,000 to make 3 million.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at average customer acquisition costs these days, just from advertising, not even from the internal expenses, staffing and operations, just from the advertising, you could spend, a third, a quarter of what the lifetime value of the customer is in this day and age. So it makes absolute sense. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah, but it just goes back to like what I was saying to him in the video. It's like I truly believe what I was saying, right? Like I truly, it was coming from a place of authenticity. I was not BSing him. I was not blowing smoke. I was not trying to. People can see through the bull crap, So you genuinely have to be willing to stand behind what you're saying. It's got to be authentic. It's got to be real. And it's like I am all about, in everything I do in life, all about shared values and beliefs and working with people that share those values and beliefs. And if that doesn't exist, well, then a relationship doesn't exist, right? Like, period. Because everything begins and ends with our values and beliefs in business. And I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of people fail, is because they're not even clear on what that means for them professionally, right? And they're not willing to wear their values and beliefs on their sleeve. Russell Brunson always talks about, like, great marketing has to be polarizing, and too many people are trying to be like, oh, I want to like solve all problems for all people and be this person that doesn't disrupt the apple cart and just be happy and all this stuff. No, share what you stand for in the world and be real behind it. And then find people that are on the same path as you, that believe the same things you do, and then scream it from the mountaintops.
Yeah.
And the beautiful part, I'm going to give you a little sales pitch here. The beautiful part about Dubb is the fact that this gives you a platform that you can show your personality, right? That you can show who you are, that you can make an authentic connection, right? Because when you do this, like like when you send messages, when you send emails, and sales messages and LinkedIn connections and YouTube messages and all these different things. And by the way, thank you for making the widget, the YouTube comment thing. That was awesome. And you do all this stuff, and you just send it to them generically. You're just like everybody else. If you want different results, you have to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, and you have to show up differently, be willing to do things differently. And this is just still to this day, is still a really unique way to show up differently for people.
Well, I've got a couple of comments here. First of all, how inspiring is that? Thank you for evangelizing the importance of personalization, the importance of doing your research, not having a scarcity mindset, having an abundance mindset, not being afraid to invest into, acquire the dream clients. It takes money to make money. And here's an example. Also for understanding that your goal is not to get 100% conversion rate. If you try to sell to everyone, you're really going to work with no one at the end of the day, because that's just not connecting and making that personal connection based on what you call values, business values, which I think is so important. So huge shout out to you for just clarifying that. So important. The other thing I wanted to mention was that, this idea of corporate gifting, it's not exactly new. It's been around forever. People have been doing corporate gifting for since business existed. We've been giving away gifts in some sort of a barter system. But what I think makes it so different now is that when we have video, we can bring the human element back. Because it's one thing to give Cubs tickets. It's another thing to give a device. But to add the video, And to make that personal connection where the person can see you, they can feel you, they can hear you, to build that parasocial relationship up, how important is that? And you figured out a way to use all the tech, the hardware, the software. You're sending the video on a Kindle device, you're following up with Dubb videos, you're asking people to respond to you, and it's just driving engagement. And then you deserve everything that you're getting. So amazing,
Thanks,
amazing recap.
Well, it's interesting because it's like the hardest part for any sales job, for any salesperson. I think most people will resonate with this. The hardest part is getting that first conversation, right? Like, and if I had a nickel for every time I heard, if I could just get the conversation, if I could just get them to sit down with me and hear me out, like I could get the deal, I could close it, but it's like, that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Well, like, think about it. Like, just take that situation that I utilized, and it's like, is it going to work every time? Did it work every time? No, not even close, right? Like maybe 1 out of 10 times it works, even with this. But you got to know the metrics, and you got to be willing to just put yourself out there and connect with the right people. And it's all about, like, I wasn't trying to sell him, like, you need to use our services for A, B, C, and D. I'm giving you these tickets. And then, like, I was doing it being like, just trying to build a relationship, trying to get that first conversation to let him see, like, hey, I want you to see I'm really intentional about what I'm doing here. I'm really intentional about you. We're as intentional with the people we work with as I'm being with you right now. This is just an experience that you're going to experience more of if you decide to meet with me, right? Like, and whether it works out or not, whether we work together or not, like, I'm fascinated by you and your business. I'd love to take you to lunch. I'd love to take this conversation to the next level and get to know you more. No harm, no foul if you decide to go a different direction. But that's the energy that you have to have on these initial calls, because your job is to not try to make the sale. Your job is to try to get the conversation, to build a relationship, because people work with people they know, like, and trust. You need to get to that level first before you ask for anything.
Yeah. Rob, I know you your gears are going. What do you got? You spent some time with me, Rob, trying to reverse engineer the whole system that Chris did, and maybe we actually made some improvements.
Yeah, you did, I think. Yeah.
Rob, you've got this down to a script, so I'd love to get the questions and now the new answers and the new ideas from you, Rob.
Well, first off, I mean, everybody out there that's watching this, you really got to take it in and really appreciate it. I mean, Chris really broke this down in one of the most important ways you can. And the most important thing, the overarching message is here, you got to make the effort. There are resources out there to know so much about your prospects these days. I mean, it's why profiles exist. Imagine if they existed years ago, like existed now. You really had to hire a private investigator. I'm just kidding. But it's all out there now. So you can really, do the homework. The other thing is the creativity in terms of reaching out to someone. It's like the old adage, if you're trying to break into acting or creative or whatever it is, and someone sends the little foot in the box, a little mannequin foot says, I just want a foot in the door. That's like a funny thing, but in this case, when you have the video, the foot talks. It's not just a gimmick. It's not just this is a gimmicky way to connect, because when you have that video, and like Chris said, and you're speaking from the heart and you're being authentic, you combine the software, the hardware, and the humanware. Humanware being one of the biggest points, because technology, like Ruben talks about all the time, it should make our life easier and enhance what we're already doing. So kudos to you, Chris. I mean, that's really, and the key is, like you said, these aren't you're not doing all this effort for a $4.99 subscription. These are larger deals. These are bigger efforts. It's like the old Glenn Ross, the Glengarry leads. It's the special leads. Those are the ones you put that kind of effort into, right? Yep. So my question for you in particular, in the deal you landed, when that happened, did you find that the sales cycle was longer or shorter in terms of, when you started that relationship and it happened? How long was it before that, it really kind of took flight?
Well, so a couple things. It was shorter than I expected, because I think timing was fortuitous. But it was longer than most people, I think, would be even willing to deal. We're talking 6 months, of a sales cycle here. It happened to be that the job was up for bid and whatever. But it literally, from the time I sent it to the time he responded, was probably 8 to 10 days. And then from that point, it was probably another 2 weeks that we had lunch, right? And mind you, the tickets to the game were 2 months out. Right. It was not even in the ballpark. I had to pre-buy them in advance and all this stuff. So like that was just like something out in the future. So he hadn't even experienced that when we went to lunch. So then we go do lunch and we just get to know each other. And like literally, I'm not the guy that's just like following up after lunch, being like, hey, now that we went to lunch, like get me in front of your people, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's genuinely like
tactful.
You know what? Yeah, like don't be a spammer. Like don't be that person, right? And so for me, I'm a big believer, like what I did in the video. You gotta have a really clear call to action. Let them know exactly what you're going to offer them. Be really clear. Don't beat around the bush and like try to be evasive or whatever. Be really clear. Let them know what you can do. Let them know what your interpretation of their problems are, how you can solve their problems, what it's going to be like working with you. Be really, really clear and confident with that.
Yeah.
Like live into that. They're going to see that. They're going to get that vibe, especially the higher the level person you're working with, the more they're going to, the more their spidey senses are going to get you or not, right? Like, and that is what it is. And you got to be authentic behind that. And so when I went to lunch with him, I was just like, we talked personal stuff for probably 45 minutes before we got into anything business. I was in no rush to like, be like, hey, like, let's talk about, your business and the money and like what's in it. So we got to know each other. And then at the end, it was like, we spent 10 minutes and I was like, listen, here's the deal. You know what you need. I know we can help you. This is what it's going to be like working with us. If you decide that you want to, I'm not going to bug you about this. I know we are the best of the best in this space, that nobody else will be able to service you and give you the personal attention that we're going to be able to do. And if you decide it's time, and when it's time, I'm going to leave it in your court. You follow up with me. And if I don't hear from you in a couple months, I'll chime in with you. That's it. Like I'll touch base with you. Like, but I'm not going to be the guy that's hounding you. And I let him know, like, if you don't hear from me, it's not because I'm not interested. And I straight up told him that. If you don't hear from me, it's not because I'm not interested. It's because I want to respect you and your time. I know you're busy and I'm not going to waste your time. You know what you need. You know what what's on the table from your end. And if you feel like working with a company like us makes sense to you, I'm going to respect you enough to think that you understand us and you're going to reach out to us. 2 months later, he reached out. A month later, we got a meeting and we did a presentation. And about 2 weeks after that, we closed the deal.
That's great. There it is. That's such a great example of the true most effective sales communication, connection, relationship conversations. Usually over 50%, 60%, 70% has nothing to do with sales or business or anything. It has to do with just, you could be talking about animals for an hour. Just like, oh man, I love my dog. You have animals, you have kids, whatever the heck it is.
Yep.
You just let that conversation go. And that's how you become not a sales rep, you become a trusted advisor. And that's something obviously you did a great job at, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, no, but it's real too. Cause I genuinely, I'm just a person who cares about people. Right. Like, and I want to like,
we feel that.
People. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to encourage people to connect with you, life180.com, send you an email at info@life180. Check out your YouTube channel, check out your Instagram, TikTok, Real Chris Kirkpatrick. That's your handle on Instagram and TikTok. Anything that you can tell us about your business and how you're helping people, the type of clients that you're working with?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, back when I closed this big deal, I was running a what we call a Dream 100 agency where we'd help companies do this. So it was actually a client of mine that I helped do this with. And I was doing a pretty high level, high touch service where I was going in and doing all the work. Now I'm not really doing that right now. I'm building my insurance agency, IMO. We focus on coaching people to help actualize their financial goals. I'm just a big believer that utilizing a properly designed whole life insurance policy should be a cornerstone foundational asset for everybody at some point in time in their life. The challenge is most people are not where they want to be financially, realistically. And that's because they don't understand how money works. And, there's a lot of debt, a lot of inefficiency in people's lives. And so we have programs that bring people from getting out of debt to building their financial foundation, building emergency funds, building opportunity funds, building capital reserve accounts for businesses. And I'm all about, if people would just focus on getting their financial structure right and stop worrying about getting the biggest rate of return and doing all these things and all the hype that all the people in the media want to talk about, the world would be a different place. And so that's what we do. We started this in January of 22 with like completely from scratch. It was just a calling that I had. People I've been doing content on the financial stuff for 7 years. And finally somebody was like, we need to partner up and build something. And I said, okay. And so now we're at 126 agents in 32 states. And that's just in our first humble year, and we're growing, and it's a lot of fun. And that's my wife right there and I just going through stuff. My wife works with me with everything I do, and that's fun. You know, I'm in my home studio working from home. My wife's in the other room, and life is good, you know. We're building a couple places in the Dominican right now to spend summers in with the family, and so it's pretty cool.
So good, Chris. Well, listen, I wanted to congratulate you on your success. I look forward to co-hosting a webinar with you in the upcoming months. Can't wait for that.
I'm excited.
And thanks again for the download here. Really appreciate it.
You got it, man. Hopefully it was helpful.
Thanks so much, Chris.
You got it.
Thanks, Chris.